guys were pushing up onto the third floor from the shady side.
I woke up to my mother screaming at me to get to the back of the house because there were gunshots happening.
Got a second team doing a re-clear of the basement and the first floor.
And then I heard the gunshots.
Give me additional resources, third floor.
And I happened to look out my window and I saw some military men in fatigue running down the street.
Contact, shots fired.
Justice, where are you?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Justice Serve TV. This is a Where in the World is Justice edition. I'm Michael Bryant. Linda Kenny Bodden is on assignment. Where I am now is in the eastern part of a middle-sized city in this country, a very quiet area, a little bit of traffic going on now because it is sort of a crossroads, but mostly residential homes around me, except for this large building back behind me. And as quiet as it is here normally, that silence was shattered back in October of 2018. That's when the Tree of Life Synagogue was attacked, and it was the worst anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history. 11 people died, a number of others injured, police officers injured. And here we are 7 years later. I thought we'd come back, kind of see where they are in the process of rebuilding, both spiritually and practically and physically. They did a groundbreaking ceremony just last year, and they're going to have a memorial inside or as part of the property, of course, a museum as well, which will follow the history, the ugly history of anti-Semitism in this country, hoping that people will learn from the mistakes that have been made in the past. So they, and again, if you're starting to figure out where I am, probably not too difficult at this point, we felt it important to visit, to especially with the tone of the country now. Anti-Semitism has never been more obvious in recent years as it is this day and age. So thought we'd see where we are with this project, see how the community is rebuilding, what they're doing. Gunman was arrested. He was tried. And at this time, he remains one of only 3 defendants on death row in the federal penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. Only 3 of them. Now, you might be wondering, well, that seems kind of crazy. There must be more than that. Well, if you think back to just the most recent administration, President Biden commuted 37 of the 40 death row inmates to life imprisonment. Of the 40 prisoners in Terre Haute waiting on death row, the man responsible for the massacre at this building behind me is one of only 3 that remains. I don't even like to say his name, to be honest with you, but it's Bowers. He's been on death row there since the sentence was pronounced almost exactly 2 years ago today. The day the sentence came down, which was August 3rd, the rabbi at the time made a statement, Rabbi Jeffrey Myers. He said, quote, "Today, we've received an immense embrace from the halls of justice around all of us to say our government does not condone anti-Semitism in the most violent form that we have witnessed." Again, that was Rabbi Myers. So, how are things developing here? What's the community like? How are they moving on? You know, if you haven't seen it, last week we had an interview with the family attorney for Maddie Mogan, one of the 4 students in Idaho that lost their lives. And Leander James, became more than just an attorney. He was helping these folks get through not just the process, but the emotional problems that can come from that kind of loss, that kind of shock, that kind of violence. Same thing can be said here. So we thought we would check in, see what's happening here, and see if maybe what we can do just to keep the light shining on this horrible event. I'm on the stoop here with a woman that is literally as close to the synagogue as you could be. You lived here in 2018?
Yes.
And you've been here, I think you said, about 20 years. Right?
20 years.
So describe for me what you recall from that day in October 2018.
The day I heard some commotion and some noises and stuff, and I happened to look out my window and I saw some military men in fatigue running down the street. And like I said, I had heard a bang and stuff. So a friend of mine called and I picked up the phone and I says, "I don't know what's going on here." She says, "Get in the house and go downstairs." and stay down there because they're having a shooting at the synagogue. So that was that day. And
Did you hear actual gunfire?
I did. And I found out, too, that the house across the street, right across the street from them, they were able to go and ask those people up there if they could use their bedroom, that they could shoot across to where they could get to that person.
As you know, the person was arrested, tried, convicted. Did you follow that process?
Yes. And I also had some friends, the twin brothers that were, I think they were two brothers that passed. I knew them. They were basically the only ones that I had known,
Of the 11 victims?
Yes, of the 11 victims.
That's horrible.
I know, very much so.
So here we are, almost 7 years later. What have you seen happening with the building and the community next door?
At first I used to hear bang bang, big machinery in the back, and I hear nothing now. I don't see too much of anything. They say they're doing something inside. They're trying to make I'd set something up and have some kind of something for the people that had lost their lives. But as far as anything else, I don't hear anything.
Are you familiar with your neighbors all around here?
Just a couple this way, and over there is the Institute.
What is that? What is the Institute?
Well, years ago, I think it used to be like a hospital, and then they made it for children, only specifically for children. It was, I think, for grown-ups as well. Handicapped children and stuff. Did you ever see that commercial some years back? They used to have a commercial for the little kids and stuff, showing them swimming or something, that how they're progressing and stuff like that with their help from the people.
Was that the Institute, they call it? Was that there in 2018?
They called it the Children's Institute, but
We won't hold you to that. Was that there in 2018?
Yes. Yeah, when I came, yeah. It was really crowded because, and I think it's starting to pick back up again. There used to be buses here. They used to bus the children in here. And it lined the street. Sometimes I couldn't even get my car out of the garage to back up, Yeah. And then it stopped for a good while. But now I see that they got the buses back to transport them back to here.
So how do you feel about what is or isn't happening in the 7 years since this happened?
Well, it's a building that's not going to any good use,
What about the congregation?
It used to be jam-packed, and now the congregation on holidays and stuff, they used to take my parking. They used to block me in the driveway. I used to have to park maybe blocks up the street when I'd come home or something. I'm
guessing, on balance, you would rather we're back to that the church was bustling and back to what it was before.
Yeah.
So here's the Institute right across the street from the neighbor that I spoke to. Again, she didn't want to be identified on camera, but one of the few folks with a very unique perspective on what happened here in October 2018. And then you've got this is obviously a in-home or sort of an in-home business. And then as you come across the street, let me give you some perspective here as to where we are. Here's the synagogue across the street here. I'll go ahead and walk across this way. We could take a look back across the street. So you can see across the street here, this is directly catty corner. It's either a lovely large home or it is more business oriented. Again, the neighborhood has changed a little bit. Here on the this is on the opposite side of the street from synagogue. No answer when I knocked on the door there. And you just wonder, sometimes folks are they're sick of the story because it hits literally so close to home. On the other hand, a lot of folks are, so invested in their neighborhood and the horror that happened on that day that they want to see things improve. They want things get back to whatever level of normal they can come up with. I'm with John, who is about 2 houses away from the synagogue. When did you move here, before or after the 2018 event?
We actually closed on the house the day of the event, and so we moved here a bit after because we had so we moved here in the beginning of 2020.
Okay, I can't let that slide. You moved here on the day.
No, we had closed on the house, but it was more that then we had a lot of investment in it beforehand. So it was a roller coaster.
What was that day like?
Well, we actually lived in a different state, but we knew we wanted to move back here to be close to family. So just hearing about it all from afar, it was very overwhelming.
And then you realized, well, we're 2 houses away. I mean, did you have second thoughts? Did you think maybe we better rethink this?
No, I mean, obviously a deep sadness that it impacted the community in that way. There's a lot of family ties to this region, so we were very interested in returning, and also hoping that lightning doesn't strike twice at the same spot. So hoping that aspect rang true for our neighborhood too.
I can see why you were attracted to this house. It's an amazing house.
We feel very fortunate. Very fortunate.
What's the history here?
This is a very old house. It actually was early 1900s polling place for the neighborhood, which is pretty cool. It was in the garage. So, but it's been a really lovely setup for my partner and I and our 3 kids.
A lot of history still inside. They keep a lot of the character.
Yeah, for sure.
That is so cool. So here we are now 7 years plus. You're in as good a position as anybody to see what, if anything's happening. I read a lot. I'm not from the area. So that's all I know is what I've read, and I don't see a lot going on. What's your take?
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot going on. There definitely was phases of demolition where they cleared things out. They had a big event that closed down some streets to sort of talk about what they might do. We've seen some mock-ups, not directly, but more just through friends of friends through emails, pass along stuff that they're thinking about turning it into some anti-hate crime sort of a memorial, which seems like a lovely idea to try to bring some folks' attention. But we haven't seen much of anything. There's not much direct communication. So
that's unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, especially when you're 2 houses away. Yeah. I would think the neighborhood would be the most up to date on what's happening.
Yeah, you'd like to see that. But I hope that they're working towards an appropriate way to commemorate the significance of the losses at that site.
You have roots here, you said. Any connection to the 11 victims or families of the victims?
No, it's more my partner's family, but they did know of some of those individuals as they are more connected to the community. But
so what are you hoping is going to happen?
I hope whatever is constructed is perceived as meaningful to the families, friends, and loved ones of the people who were so tragically lost that day.
Now we're kind of catty corner across from the synagogue, and I have the good fortune of talking to one of the neighbors here who would rather not be identified, so we're just going to chat for a second. On the front porch, look at this porch. This amazing front porch. So you lived here in 2018?
I did.
What can you tell me or remember about that day?
Wow. I hope you don't mind if it's a bit summarized. Flashbacks are a thing that happen. I woke up to my mother screaming at me to get to the back of the house because there were gunshots happening, and then I heard the gunshots after that. We tuned into the police scanners to figure out what was going on because basically we were all ordered to stay in our house. We saw some people able to escape through the front door when the police showed up. Do you see that stone kind of thing right at the corner? It looks like an old part of a wall.
I'll try and move over and see a better.
It's right next to the bus stop.
On this, across the street from the synagogue and across the street from you.
Yeah, that was like the only cover the police had. So they were hiding, and you can see it really well from our house. So we were watching the police hide behind that as they were trying to shoot the guy who was inside the building, shooting out from him, until the SWAT team showed up, and they brought like their huge, like, giant car bus things. I don't even know what they're officially called. And then, yeah, so they stayed until they arrested the guy. They stayed after that. After that, they set up those ginormous lights that literally no one could sleep for like the couple houses around here because they were on all throughout the night as they were collecting evidence and whatnot. And then the news people showed up, and pretty much on our side of the street, news people from all over basically just camped in our yards.
Now, since that time, obviously, the shooter was convicted in 23, sentenced to death, still on death row, one of only 3 that did not have a sentence commuted by the former administration. How do you feel about how the process played out?
Strangely enough, I was almost chosen to be on the jury, but through luck, I was out of the state and therefore had to reschedule my jury hearing, basically, which was terrifying when I learned that the day I was supposed to go was the day they were selecting the jury for that. This might be controversial, but I think a death sentence is warranted in this case. I have no mercy for this man, and I don't believe he deserves it.
How about activity, physical activity since? What have you seen going on? There's maybe something inside. It doesn't look like a lot from the outside. What have you seen?
So do you see the fence with all the beautiful...
Yes.
So art poured in, and one of the lovely ladies there were multiple congregations there. She belonged to one of the congregations there. She was able to basically get it done where they printed all this beautiful art, and it's stayed up since, but you'll notice behind it it's just empty. That's where the buildings used to be, and that's where the shooting actually happened. The building you currently see still up is the sanctuary, and no shooting happened in the sanctuary. So that's why they didn't tear it down. But it's been like a year since they've officially torn that building down, and we're all kind of wondering why they haven't started rebuilding. We heard that they had plans they got with an architect that they were going to build a new, they had offices over there. They were multiple congregations, and so sometimes they just need like a meeting room. They don't need the sanctuary because, if you're not having a bat mitzvah and it's just like, like a Torah reading, you don't need this big sanctuary. So all those rooms are destroyed. And we don't know why they haven't started building anew. It's been a whole year.
And part of that healing process just this week at PNC Park in Pittsburgh, where many of the congregation came to enjoy the game, forget about some of the past, and maybe think about better days to come.
I hope that whatever happens at that site is evidence that hate doesn't win.